Welcome to TradeTheNBI.com. This is John's reports for the 14th of April. No surprises here. I mean, we've had the crossover of magenta over the yellow on the NBI. We've been in cyan under red on the DOC and a straight up line with that red DOC. So everything consistent within that and staying above the ABM yellow becomes the line of concern at 40.97 or 41.36. It's quite a range. And that's just simply because it's nonstop bullish at this particular stage. There's no other way to describe it. You can see from the NQ also breaking out to new highs. So starting to catch up with, relatively speaking, with the S&P. You can see, though, the big difference between the NBI readings, relatively speaking here. You don't have quite the same jubilance now with the slight fade of the blue in that, but we've also had inconsistencies within the DOC where we've been below, came slightly above, and it's just back and forth. Now we're back with the cyan is a little bit over green, but still below red overall. So still maintaining it. It's just a slight difference, and it's worth noting just so you can pay attention because you're going to get a divergence when things change between the two. Of course, from a 50K standpoint, it's been solid to the upside. Euro standpoint, it's obviously been in that climb as it's recognized the continued spending in the U.S. is not going to abate in any way, shape, or form, so it just keeps pushing that forward, despite the fact the Eurozone is a disaster, without question. From an intraday standpoint, fairly boring. We started off with our red signal. We came and filled back in, and this was a fill of the positive extremes from day before. So that wasn't anything too dramatic. This green line here represents what should constitute a buy setup. I'm going through the code to distinguish that one a little bit. And the reason where it would be a slight disconnect is because we didn't get orange all the way underneath. I know that's one of the criteria, but when we have rising red DOC, and then of course even one further candle waiting for the green to cross over, cyan would definitely trigger. So just gonna fill that one in there, and that would correct that area. Cyan candle comes in, obviously that's cyan under red DOC, along with all of the up moves. You can see, though, that even when it gets into this extreme area, all we ended up with is just flat going across, which is very unusual. It's not normal market occurrence. Normally, if you sit up at the peak this long, usually you're going to get some kind of spillback to try and jar some activity, but there was just no interest whatsoever from a short standpoint to motivate anything. And that's why we maintained pretty much that flatness until a little bit later. We got a bit of a spike of orange, not much. I mean, it only lasted a couple of bars, but what was interesting about that is it's just a matter of waiting for that turnaround pivot. And we noted it when we saw the negative red NBI that came in on the magenta. Actually, I may even put it in, can't put an exclusion in for it because at this stage you can still come across for 4 or 5 bars with a significant decline. The key for me is just looking for a turnaround pivot. In this case, magenta crossed over, and then literally within the next bar, both blue, green pointing up, and you'd already had the orange dip below red with a green crossover, so it was pretty clear from there, and it led to a pretty decent explosion. And we ended up with again another soft period as we dipped back below, but wasn't able to produce much because you're already below 10. So it was just a matter of, okay, I'm starting to get these negative readings, and this points out what I was just saying about that dip below. It can last for a few bars. I mean, yes, the general weakness is in there, but as soon as we see the turnaround, it starts to build. And once it was able to get a dip orange, that was relative to the beginning of what has popped up. You see the little blue dot right there. This is a representation of a secondary setup I'm looking at for potential weakness. It's about to flow. It's just a matter of waiting for the proper pivots lower. Both blue and green, where at least blue remains below the green level, and that gives you that indication that there's going to be some more bearishness associated with it. At this particular stage, blue is still above green, and that's why you're still seeing price elevated over it. So it comes pretty clean and consistent within those setups, but overall, clean action from a read standpoint. It's just a matter of fine-tuning a couple little details, but overall, the market is still in a power mode, and until that begins to shift, we'll start to see it first in 5K, and then it will certainly represent itself on 50K, and then we'll know that there's going to be something more of a significant move. But as always, I will keep updating on the Skype chat. Trade well. Talk to you later.